How's it going? Okay, so we are doing what are we doing? We are doing selecting row. So let's create selecting row JS. So we want to grab the table from here to here. Yeah, I think it's one of the hardest, right? Let me see. No. Actually, my mistake. It's not the hardest at all. Okay, so the first thing we do, we want to add selecting row, and then we want import selecting row. There you go. Working. Okay. So we do not need to import any hooks, we just need to create a local state. Now when we create local state, naturally we probably want to bind it straight away to the table state. So we're binding, like inside the table there is row selection state, and we are binding it to this state here. That's the way to do it. So now we want to bind the changer function, and it's called on row selection change, and then we want to bind it to this state here. You might want to copy and paste these values, to be honest with you, because if you have some kind of autocomplete, it can be a nightmare. It's not working and you don't know why it's working. Okay, so this step is very, very critical. It's very unique to this. You need to enable row selection. And the way to do that is enable row selection set to true. Right? Now there is a second way to do it. You can do conditionally as well. So for example, let's say you want gender, well, let's say row original, and then let's say age is bigger than 18. Only then you can select it. If not, you cannot select it. Now you can do it conditionally as well. I'm just saying that you can create this type of conditioner and then select it, but we're not going to do it for this exercise. You can play around with it, if you want, but we're just going to do it simpler. Enable selection. Yeah, enable row selection. Okay, cool. So now this is done. Now we need to create a magic checkbox. Now this checkbox is quite magical, so magic checkbox. And we copy and paste the code into it. Like so. Okay. We want to, well, let's call this name, otherwise it's gonna get confusing. Okay, let's just call it this way. Okay, so next thing is we want to import this into columns, right? Import from and we want to create well, which one is used by default? Default is this one here, so let's take the default one. Oh, is it happening again? Yeah. Sometimes I don't know why this happens. It just trolls like this. Yeah. It's some kind of extension I'm running, so I'm gonna have to restart. My apologies. Sometimes it happens. I press enter and it pastes as opposed to... I think it's caused by this extension here. I don't know why. It just happens. So not a big deal. Starting the server, everything is working. We're back up, right? Yeah. Okay, so we want... so this is with filters. We want column definitions. So we want column definitions with checkbox, like this. And we want to copy and paste the code into it, which is quite difficult. It's really complex, so just copy and paste it. Right, I'm just saying that it's quite complicated, so you just want to copy and paste it. Go into the repo and just copy and paste it from there. Okay. And it has to go as first. So now we want to go to row select. We want to put this thing here. And then we want to change this to be here. I don't think we are done yet. Yeah, so as you can see, we have this thing in here. Okay. So what are we left to do? Yeah, I think, honestly, I think that's about it. Yeah. Now we want to maybe display what we have selected, right? So let's do HR. Let's do div. Basically, the location of the selected rows. I wonder if I can console log. It's gonna be in table instance get selected row model, and it's going to be on... So this is a function, so we have to call it, and then, well, let's just do this for now. I think it should run, right? Yeah, it's running. So you can see that we have flat rows, rows, and rows by ID. Now they recommend using flat rows. So you see, as soon as you start clicking, you will notice that it's selecting. Now note that ID is going to be 1 even though we selected ID 2, and that's because you have to remember this is table ID, right? Table ID starts from 1, whereas this is ID of the cell which is 0 indexed. Does that make sense? So every time you select 4, it's actually selecting 3 because the ID is 0 indexed, because this ID comes from when we created the data, whereas this comes from the system, from TanStack table. TanStack table is 0 indexed, right? So I'm just letting you know. So don't panic. You'll be like, oh my god, I selected Christy. Why is it selecting Rip? No, it's still selecting Christy, because if you look, it's still Christy, even though it says 4, right? So, but that's kind of pretty much it. We can maybe map it so you can see what's being selected. Dot flat rows dot map. Let's do element return. Well, let's put this into let's put this into UL element, like this, and let's return Lee key is going to be element ID, close, and then here we're gonna put JSON, stringify, and what can we put into it? Element original should probably work, right? Because if we look inside, so this is original is the JSON that's been selected. So original is this, right? So we're just gonna display it basically. So let's close this thing. So now you see it's correct. Now it's selecting 98 because we are because this ID comes from table. It doesn't come from TanStack. You see? Okie dokes. So this is this thing done. Selecting rows. So this is, we are now on column ordering. Okay, so this is the next one. Take care.